Hi everyone, welcome to another day of Code Purple, a Black girl and femme orientation for UT Austin, presented by Umoja. My name is Mercedes and I am y'all's secretary this year with Umoja, and I'm here to give you a presentation on picking classes. So just to start from the beginning, really quick video. We're going to be talking about how to find Black girl and femme friendly courses, professors, and how to navigate all that through COVID-19. So something about courses is what we're going to start with, is that they can apply for multiple degree requirements and they can double code for different things. That means I may be taking a class that says, let's say, English 304, but if the topic is African American culture, it may also code for AFR 317S. I'm just pulling random numbers here. That's going to really come into handy so that you can get classes that count towards your degree or also something a little bit more niche or specializing, or even you can count towards your minor and your major and your degree all at the same time, which is super useful. One cool thing that I want to really hone in on is finding Black women-minded courses that work for you. So there's a lot of departments you can look for these. One underrated place to look is American Studies, Rhetoric Department, Educational Psychology, the Ads and the AFR Department, and Women and Gender Studies, particularly those first three. Those are all departments that tend to have a little bit more identity-based courses than other places, and those are super cool places to look. Some common examples are the Black Power movement, counts for your U.S. history course, contemporary moral issues counts as an ethics flag, and numbering race is a quantitative reasoning flag. So that's like an example of how you can get something that kind of applies to your identity and take like some really cool electives that work towards your degree as well. So just some more utility type information is when you're searching the course schedule, you want to look at things like core curriculum, keyword, professor, and department. One keyword I put in a lot is race and then women. When you put in race, you'll find all the courses that are even like mildly related to it, which is great. Professor and department help you look up things like just American Studies courses, just rhetoric courses. There's a professor you really like. And core curriculum is also really helpful because when you start with your core curriculum, you're looking at more this big old screen list that tells you all these things that code. But if you go to the fall registration only, you can look up from the beginning just what all counts as, say, for example, everything government or everything social and behavior sciences, and all the things that code for these requirements. You can look it up and it'll actually show you specifically what this semester all codes for, which is a really cool tool. Now, what you can also do is search past course schedule. This is also leaning into professors because you can see which courses are spring only, which ones are fall only, and you can plan ahead to see which professors are actually teaching right now and like teach often as opposed to professors that tend to focus on research, etc. So continuing on to professors. You want professors who will defend you, not attack you. And one way to think about that is professors that look like you, they have, that's one way that often people do better in classes, right? So Black classes don't equal Black professors. UT has a really abysmal Black faculty rate. So just because you're taking an AFR class or a race class doesn't mean the professor is. So you're gonna wanna do more research, which we will touch on later. One way to do that is, do they study Black or women's issues? Do they study the thing that they're teaching about? A lot of teachers will take on classes just because UT forces them to, because they need to offer that class or they want to offer that class so it's more diverse. So you want to go and research that professor to see if they actually are authoritative in what they're teaching. And one way to do that is department faculty list. So what you can do is you can just Google, here I have Scott Wolford, like you're going to go UT Austin department faculty, put in whatever department you are. I'm going to put in Gov. And the first link should be this sort of directory on all the faculty. And it will have pictures so you can actually see, for yourself, like what sort of background they're coming from. Prof plus boss is pretty white. I already know, for example, one professor is Derek F. He actually doesn't have a picture, but he is a Black professor with UT government, and you can see here that he actually does study racial justice and economic inequality. So if he taught something on race, you can sort of have a presumption that he'd be a little bit more authoritative on it. Whereas if, let's say, Lawrence over here, Professor Graham, was teaching, you see that he's sort of into comparative politics, regionalism. That seems more global. So maybe if he was teaching if he was teaching like an African American women's class, you may see that maybe he's not the super most authoritative person. I was guessing. I don't know this professor well, but so another popular tool is Rate My Professor. They have really skewed reviews. I honestly don't recommend it that much. The TA comments are irrelevant. You get a new TA every semester. You don't know who they're going to be. The only thing you really glean from that is how much the professor tends to rely on TAs and if that's important to you. The real thing that Rate My Professor is useful for is the frequency of the tags. You can see how often people put something there, like skip class, won't pass, that type of thing. And you really want to pay attention when you're reading those reviews, which class they're talking about. If all these reviews are for like Gov 312L, but you want to take like Gov 355N, you know what I mean? That's not abundantly useful to you. You also, I can't stress this out enough, check out the syllabus. You can see what kind of language they use. Something specific is like, do they include harassment in safe place disclaimers or a no tolerance policy? Do they put Title IX in their syllabus to really emphasize that they're going to be a good ally for you? Should there be any like gender-based discrimination, race-based discrimination, harassment, etc.? Now, another cool thing is Catalyst. Catalyst is good if you want to look up specific courses and what people do, but you can also just see what that professor is like in their grade distribution over time. So I'm actually going to show y'all a Catalyst lineup. Here I have Dr. Philpott from the government department. She is a Black women's teacher. And you can see that while, and you may compare this with your Rate My Professor reviews, that she's a pretty tough grader, right? That she has difficult classes. But you can also see that out of all this data, and this is really high, to have this many students take your classes over time, only 6 people get Fs, right? So maybe getting an A, while possible, right? We see that this is a pretty high number of As. Even if you don't get an A, you're very unlikely to fail, right? So you can put this information in context with other like reviews or information or syllabi, and you can see that maybe it is hard to get an A, but if you put in any kind of effort, it's pretty impossible to pass, which is definitely not the case for all classes at UT. So that's some really useful information. So that's how you compare it with the syllabus and with other reviews. You look for that A to B ratio, and you look how they go over the semester and over courses. So just going back to that Cal's example, you see that there's different courses here. So how she teaches these classes are a little bit different than how she teaches 312, for example. You can also just look at specific semesters. So if I go fall 2016, just randomly, anyways, it's not loading, but you can see, oh yeah, here it is. So you can see compared to the aggregate, this semester there was less A's than there were B's, right? So that's one way that you can compare information. And lastly, we're going to talk about COVID-19 type classes. You already know online, hybrid, and in person. Honestly, the real thing to look out for is test taking software. You want to see how much, you want to see if they're going to be charging you a lot of money to have like this surveillance software to take tests online. That's going to be like an underrated obstacle, I think, for online classes and budgeting. So you really want to take that into account for your textbook, etc. Now, something that is a lot more personal decision is like, what's going to work best for you? I think these are a few questions that you want to ask yourself, and those answers will guide your decision. Do you work while at home? Are you from a area that has universities so that your employer is student conscious? Was work study money important to your financial aid? Do you need that money that is already automatically student conscious for you to be able to like traverse your year without too much financial worry? Another thing is, what is your household like? Are you expected to perform childcare at home? Will your environment take your online classes seriously? Not just while you're in lecture, not interrupting you, but also when you have like a crunch time. When you have like a crunch time study period, or you have an org meeting or something, are they going to give you the privacy or the sanctity that you need? Is it going to be a good working environment? That's something to really take into account when you're talking about where to take your classes. All right, this is a really quick overview. I could give this talk for about 20-30 minutes. So if you have any questions, reach out to Umoja or me. Once again, welcome to Code Purple. Welcome to UT. Hook 'em, and we'll see you next time.